Hey everyone, let's get real for just a moment. Hello everyone, it's Bront CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and I figured I wanted to get real with you about my Hydra teams. I know a lot of you guys have asked about building teams. I've done some content on how to build some teams. I've done some content on some of the debuffs, but I figured one of the ways to give you guys a view into fairly accessible teams that you could possibly build, and an idea of where somebody that's in the middle progression, that's not at Nightmare Hydra, is doing Brutal Hydra, but is kind of struggling with the teams a little bit, putting together what somebody like that puts together for a team. So we're going to go over my alts Hydra teams. I've got 3 teams. Two of them are a mix of brutal or hard, so I'll get into that when we talk about the teams. But let's go take a look at the teams. But first of all, I just want to thank you guys all for the support. We've passed one of the big milestones I was looking forward to at 350 subs earlier this week. It has been absolutely amazing. Much love to the community. Much love to you guys. Much appreciated. And if you are just finding me now, feel free to hit that sub button, hit that like button if you like the video. I definitely appreciate it. It has been a wonderful time growing my community, and you guys are awesome, and I definitely appreciate all the support. So with that, let's get into taking a look at my Hydra teams. All right, so I've adjusted the camera a little bit so you can actually see all 3 of the teams. These are the 3 Hydra teams that I'm currently running on my alt. Now, I've got a normal team that's pretty much the leftovers of people I was not using in my brutal and hard team. And then I have a brutal and a hard team, and they're currently labeled as brutal and hard, but I actually run them the other way around sometimes. It's kind of hit or miss as to which one I run for brutal and which one I run for hard. I found that it really does depend on the affinity, whether or not my brutal team can stay alive. It depends on the rotation as well. Sometimes RNG gets the better of me as well. So sometimes I'll run the hard team on brutal and I'll run the brutal team on hard. They're both fairly interchangeable. Just for reference, my normal team does somewhere between 50 and 100 million on auto. It really does seem to be pretty random. Again, there's a lot of RNG in Hydra, so that's not a big surprise. On auto, either of my brutal or hard teams on hard can get about 50 to 75 million. On brutal, either of these can one key, but I do need to manual the key because they are just not quite reliable enough. So let's go take a look at each of these 3 teams and what I've done with them, why I built them the way I built them, and what I look for in a Hydra team. All right, first up, we're going to take a look at the one that I've got labeled as brutal. We've got Michinaki in here. Michinaki brings Hex. He brings extra attacks. So if you attack a champion with Hex, he has a 50% chance of joining it with his A1, which provides burns, which are a great source of damage as general. He has decreased defense on an AoE. He also has buff strip on an AoE. He is a great champion. As you can see, I've got him built at 228 speed, 4.5k defense. He's a defense-based champion as far as damage concerned, and enough accuracy to land debuffs on brutal. Now, I don't think I have him in a savage or the light gear that ignores defense. It would be great to do. I don't think I could get the stats for brutal on this account in him, and that's fine. I've got him built with a decent amount of defense. I want him to be super fast because I'd actually rather take more turns than do more damage per attack. So I've got him built with speed boots. If I could get this level of speed in defense boots, I certainly would. That would also be a problem getting him in a defense ignoring set. Overall, the only thing I have pre-programmed is I want him to do his A3, which is the Hex and the Strip buffs first, because I want the Hex out, because the Hex adds a ton of damage both to other champions as well as a chance for him to counterattack or do the extra attack when other people are attacking. Ugo. Ugo probably doesn't need any introduction. As I introduced her in one of my epic videos, Ugo is an amazing Hydra champion. You'll probably see Ugo at least one more time. Ugo is great. I recommend having at least 2 of them for Hydra. If you have 3 of them for Hydra, it's great. There's very few champions that do everything that Ugo does. I've got the decreased defense. I've got the block buffs. I've got a cleanse and a heal. I've got a leech on the A1. I've got a chance to recover the team if the team dies. It's all great. If I can get Ugo in Relentless, I will put Ugo in Relentless. If not, I just want her super fast with high accuracy. I believe this one is in Relentless. The other one I don't believe is. Bivald is great. I've got Bivald as my Mischief tank because Bivald on his A2 puts Strengthen on himself and only on himself. You do need to make sure he's not partnered with a champion that also puts Strengthen up on everybody because that nullifies the ability for him to tank. But he also is my Provoke champion, both with an A2 that does the Provoke 100% of the time through the Poison Cloud, and an A1 that can also place through the Poison Cloud on a 50% chance. Now, the A1 is not super reliable, but it's there. He also throws up Leech, which is great for healing. He's got a bit of a heal and a shield. He's a very good champion. He keeps you alive. He supports particularly well. He can do a bit of damage if you want to have him do a bit of damage. I actually like putting him in a set like a Cursed set was great because he's got 2 AoEs. I believe mine's actually in Relentless so that he can take extra turns to get more provokes out there. That's certainly an option as well. Rathalos Blade Master does a lot of damage. He is great to pair with somebody that burns, so pairing him with Michinaki is great, and that means that Michinaki and Blade Master are my 2 damage dealers. He does a lot of buffs for himself. He does some buffs for other people. He puts the decreased defense out on the A1 if you need it. He hits really, really hard. He hits even harder with increased attack and with burns out there. So overall, a great champion for damage and partners well with somebody like Michinaki. I like Elva. Elva is a great champion for Hydra. Elva brings a lot of passive healing. Elva brings increased speed and block debuffs along with a cleanse, brings a decent revive, brings a little bit of veils, brings a bunch of continuous heals as well. It can play a little bit with the mischief tanking, but I've got my Elva in protection gear. I think she's in 6-piece protection, which helps a lot because she gets a lot of protected buffs out there, and the protected buffs won't be stolen, so that's very helpful as well. You can also use somebody like a Siphi in Hydra, and Siphi and Elva are actually very similar as far as the roles they fill and how they fill them. I like Elva better because Elva's cleanse happens. It's not turn boost, it's a cleanse, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown, not a 4-turn cooldown. So overall, from what she brings to Hydra, I think she's a little bit better than Siphi. Siphi is certainly useful, and in fact, I used to have Siphi in this team until I got my Elva built, and I've replaced Siphi with Elva. And then finally, Inquisitor Shamael keeps the fear off of me. He does a lot of damage. He's built for a reasonable amount of damage, but he's also super tanky. You see, he's got a lot of HP, so I've got him built for decent damage, a little bit of accuracy, and the HP. I probably should put a little more accuracy on him for Brutal. This is enough for hard, but overall, he does a particularly good job, and he keeps the turn meter going. Great champion. He's actually why I have Michinaki in the lead, because he will propel Michinaki's turn meter with all of his passives, so Michinaki gets a ton of extra turns. So that's kind of the way that this team is constructed. So let's go take a look at my hard team. All right, so my hard team, somewhat similar construction, definitely different champions. I don't have all the same champions, obviously. Razelvarg, he is great to have in the lead. You've got the increased speed, you've got the turn meter boost. He slowly but surely ramps his own speed up, so eventually he does additional damage because his speed ramps up, plus he keeps your turn meter going. Razelvarg is a great champion for Hydra. He also puts the leech out. Definitely one of the big damage dealers in this team. He needs the accuracy to be able to do all the damage. If you can put him in a defense ignore set, that would be good. Or if you can put him in a set like a provoke or a cursed, he can be great as well because he has 2 different AoEs and he's constantly taking turns, so he'll constantly get those debuffs and provokes out there. I really like Vizix in Hydra. Vizix has a great kit. Vizix does, however, need a little bit of special care when you have her with Hydra. Single combat is great because it's a provoke on an AoE on a 3-turn cooldown, and I believe I've got mine in Relentless gear. She's actually a little slow, so I probably should tune that up a little bit. And in fact, her accuracy is a little low, so maybe that's not the best for getting her in Brutal. We'll take a look at that. Maybe I got to rebuild her. The provoke is great, but it also puts out ally protection, so she can be very vulnerable to attacks. So you want to build her with a lot of defense and a lot of HP, possibly with a little bit of healing. Sinister Allies does decrease speed as well, which is a critical debuff for Hydra, and then she can hit reasonably hard with both of these, even if you don't build her for a lot of crit damage. So, great champion, everyone gets her for free. I'm pretty sure mine is in Relentless to get that single combat out several times. So, again, this is probably not the best built physics, but definitely a good champion worth using in Hydra. Again, we've talked about Ugo. I've got a second Ugo in this team. This one is a little bit tankier, a little bit more survivable. I believe I originally built her possibly aiming for Brutal. I don't remember if she's also in Relentless or not, but definitely a good champion. Newt is great for damage. I prefer Newt on Brutal, which I think is why I wanted to run this team on Brutal. Newt does more damage with his Blessed Bash on Brutal. The only thing I want to make sure we do is I wanted him to get the weakens out from his A2 first before he does his Blessed Bash, at least the first time. After that, it's not as big of a deal. You do have to be careful because his Fury of the King will put buffs on him that will make him a target for mischief, so you certainly want to worry about that. But otherwise, you make him fast, you give him decent defense, you give him a ton of crit damage. He will do an absolute job of nuking for you with his Blessed Bash. And honestly, he hits very hard with the rest of his kit as well. You're going to build him really hard for Hard Fire Knight anyway, so you might as well get some use out of him in Hydra if you've got one. Now, a Blade Master is one of the limited time champions. He is a wonderful, wonderful champion overall. He's got a cleanse with block debuffs for 2 turns that's protected if it's a boss fight, which of course Hydra is a boss fight, so it's a protected block debuffs. He's got the increased defense and shield that attacks all enemies, and that's protected as well. I do forget that this is a cleanse, by the way. And then his A1 will increase the duration of random buffs occasionally. It's only 40% chance. I've got it booked to 45. It goes up to 55. If you put sniper on, it becomes 60. Good ability, not super critical. You can certainly skip the books on this, as I have. He does a decent amount of damage, but he does a lot of protection because those shields are massive shields. And you just build him with a ton of HP, a ton of defense. I believe I've got mine in bolster gear, so he's putting a massive shield out to start, and then he's constantly increasing his shield as well. Overall, he is a great champion. The only reason I have this leading before the cleanse is I actually wanted the cleanse to happen after the first turn, because I wanted him to actually cleanse stuff and then put the block debuffs out there, and then that will help the team as well. And then finally, again, a Shamael helps you with the turn meter, helps you with fears, helps you with debuffs. Great champion. This one is a little slower, has a lot higher accuracy, decently tanky as well. This might be a better one for Brutal. Maybe I'll actually swap the ones for Brutal and for Hard. But, it's always nice to look at your teams and see who's built for what. So this is how I've built my team for Hard. Let's go take a look at my normal team, which is definitely some of the leftovers of champions I was not using elsewhere, but doesn't mean that they were not good champions. All right, first up, I've got Duchess, and I know it's kind of sad to say Duchess is a leftover, but I prefer Shamael to keep the turn meter moving to Duchess in most teams. Duchess does add a ton of protection, though. Her passive here reduces a lot of damage from the AoE attacks from bosses. She's got the Veils, and then she's got more Veils with the Revive. If you're going to program it for auto, make sure you put Spectral Rebirth as the #1 priority, because otherwise she will do her Shroud of Souls over her Spectral Rebirth, which means she will not revive people when you want her to revive people, which is usually most of the time. And because you're looking for her for Veils more than you are anything else in this comp, Spectral Rebirth is just as important as Shroud of Souls. Plus, it puts out continuous heals, so it's one of the ways this team actually heals. Solus is built here for damage. He's also built here for provokes. He's got an AoE provoke on his A1. He's got an A2 random provoke. Now this one is not as well targeted, so it doesn't always hit the Head of Decay, but it usually hits the Head of Decay because you've got a couple chances at random. He'll often attack the Head of Decay anyway. AI is a little better than not, but it's got a decent chance of getting provoke out there. But he got that on a 3-turn. This is on a 4-turn. He's got enough provokes to keep everything going, but there's a reason I have a second provoker in this team as well. And he hits like a unit, and he's super tanky, so what's not to like? Lydia is great. Lydia provides decreased defense, weaken, increased speed, strengthen, block debuffs, poison sensitivity if you need it. She is great. If you can put her in a set like Cursed or Provoke, that's great as well. I've got her built for super high speed. I believe mine is in Cursed, so she's putting out some of the hex as well. It's great. Wonderful champion. She's actually really good in Hydra. I actually prefer to pair her with Shamael. I just couldn't fit her on the teams with Shamael. So I put her on this team, and she does a decent enough job. The big reason you want her on a team with Shamael is when somebody gets feared, she will attack the fear head with her A1. So if you don't have Shamail or she's not under a veil, she will fear herself occasionally, and that can be problematic. But for a normal team, the bar is pretty low on how much damage I need to do to get the one key, so I don't really worry about it too much on a normal key. Contra the Cyclone is a great champion for Hydra. Contra has a passive. If there's at least 5 debuffs on the enemy, she will put out a provoke 75% of the time. Not 100% of the time, unfortunately, but decent enough. She also heals herself when debuffs expire. She receives less damage for each debuff, and she increases her attack accuracy for debuffs. So she doesn't need all the accuracy if you don't need it, and she's a good secondary provoker. So her and Solus, there's a good chance that I've got provokes on the head because I've got a ton of debuffs on this team, particularly with Lydia, and particularly again with Contra. Contra's A2 attacks 3 times and has a chance of placing a random debuff. It's 75%, 80% if you put Sniper on her, so definitely put Sniper on her. So generally, she will get at least 2 of these buffs on the target. They're going to be random. Each head will get a different debuff, but she's got a decent chance of putting blocked debuffs. She's got the increase attack, or decrease attack. She's got decreased speed. She's got weaken, decrease accuracy. Heal reductions, not super important, but everything else is great. And then her A1 has a chance of stealing random buffs. So she can actually steal buffs from the target. This may actually be worth putting that 1 extra book in as well for me to get that up to a 60% chance. 65 with Sniper. It's a decent chance to do it. It's useful for stripping buffs occasionally. It's a nice thing. Plus she steals them, so it's nice. Drang is great for Hydra. Drang has the guaranteed burns. That makes him wonderful. You can certainly build him for damage if you want to, but I like just building him for speed and tankiness. He's also got this HP balance. So as long as he's got a ton of HP or somebody else on your team's got a ton of HP, he can bring everybody up to that ton of HP, and then he'll trigger HP burns on his A1 as he's attacking with his A1. So I want to get the burns out there most of the time. Burns are very important. So I have the burns as the priority. He'll do the HP balance when he feels he needs to. Overall, it's a good team. Finally, Deliana. Deliana brings me the reliable block buffs. Now, I do need to book this down to a 4-turn cooldown would be better, but you know what? This is a normal team, so it works just fine. Booking this to a 4-turn cooldown makes this a lot easier. You can build her pretty easily. I usually will sometimes turn this off because this decrease resistance isn't that great, but it is a decent hitter on the A1. So, in fact, I'll probably just don't use that because I don't think I need that on normal. I like her A1. Her A1 actually hits pretty hard, has a chance of putting a leech. If you book it up, it becomes a 60% chance. So she'll constantly be getting leech out there. It's an AoE, so you can put her in a set. In fact, I think I have her in a provoke set in this team. The other thing that's nice about her is her passive allows you to build her for less accuracy than normal because for every 1000 HP, she gets 2 additional accuracy. So I've got an additional 160 accuracy on her because of my high HP. That makes her so much easier to build. You don't need to focus on the accuracy. In fact, I've got so much accuracy, I could probably swap out a banner for a HP banner, for example, get more HP and still have enough accuracy for Brutal on this particular build. So Deliana is great. She brings a ton of healing. She does some direct healing as well as the leeches as well. And as I said, this team does well. I've actually seen this team on auto break 100 million. I've also seen this team do 55 million. Again, RNG is going to RNG. But these are the 3 Hydra teams that I'm currently running on my alt. As you can see, they probably still need a little bit of work to be more consistent on Brutal and Hard. But overall, they're great teams, and they kind of give you a little bit of insight into how I'm building teams for Hydra. So hopefully this has been helpful. I definitely appreciate you guys for hanging out. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch the video. So you all take care. I will see you in the next video. Until then, I'm Bront CatHerder.